Echoes of Betrayal by Japi, Mazwi.
Chapter 18. The Night of the Laughing Hyena. December 29th, 2008. The pain came first like a bolt of fire tearing through my leg, and then, as if summoned by it, a set of gleaming eyes locked onto mine in the half-light. I was face to face with a wild animal, so close I could see my own panic reflected in its eyes. I screamed. Instinct hurled me to my feet, and the creature bolted into the bush. But it didn't flee far. Maybe 50 yards out it stopped, turned, and began walking slowly back toward me. Deliberate, unhurried. Its movements told me something I didn't want to know. It wasn't afraid. Its eyes shone like glass marbles catching the last of the moonlight. We stared at each other. The closer it came, the more certain I became. This animal was studying me. And then came the laughter. A strange, high-pitched giggle echoed through the darkness. At first I thought it was coming from somewhere behind me, but then I realized that the sound was coming from it. The hyena was laughing at me. Adrenaline briefly cloaked the agony in my leg, buying me minutes of numbed awareness. The sky began its slow transition to dawn, pale light tiptoeing across the savannah. I remembered something, an old survival tale, maybe myth, maybe truth. Animals hesitate to attack those who meet their gaze, who stands tall. So I stood. I had no other weapons, only the force of my stare and the threat of my upright body. Two smaller shapes crept into view, cubs. The laughing predator was a mother. Something stirred inside me, a quiet ache. I had never been one. Nature had made other plans. And here she was, maternal, fierce, and unapologetically present. When the sun rose high enough, the illusion dissolved. My predator stood revealed, a full-grown male hyena, squat and muscular, with jaws capable of crushing bone. The pain in my leg was now unbearable. My left limb had swollen monstrously, double the size of the right. I fought the tremble in my knees, told myself if I stayed on my feet, he wouldn't strike. Just hours earlier, I'd escaped the jaws of a crocodile. Now I stood eye to eye with its terrestrial cousin. Both possess crushing teeth. My handbag was gone, likely lost in the river, but by some miracle, my purse with my passport remained tucked inside my jean jacket. He crouched again, watching, waiting. If I stepped forward, he retreated. If I stopped, he stopped. When I stood still long enough, he inched forward again. We were locked in a strange, instinctive dance, the hunted and the hunter circling each other at dawn. I told myself I only had to last until sunrise. The dawn was my ally. But the hours were long and heavy, and I was light-headed. I could barely keep upright. Moving was out of the question. I had no idea where I was, and the pain screamed with every imagined step. Somewhere, I could hear the Limpopo River, but its murmur came from all directions, as if I were standing inside it. I leaned on a nearby tree, my lifeline. Climbing was out of the question, and there was no one coming. Sleep began to seduce me. I knew that collapsing on the ground would be suicide. So, in desperation, I began stripping bark from the mopani trees surrounding me. It was something to do, something human, something alive. I twisted the bark into rough cords and wrapped them around my waist and the tree, knotting myself upright. The hyena's ears twitched at my movements, but he remained still, attentive and curious. I made loop after loop, knot after knot, as if weaving my own crucifix, my body bound in place not out of faith, but raw survival instinct. If I fell asleep, I hoped the rope would trick him into believing I was still alert, still standing. But no sooner had I finished tying myself to the tree than a new threat slithered into view. A snake, gliding across the dry grass, slow and purposeful. It was sidewinding directly toward my tree. It was light enough now to see it clearly, smooth, grey-black and deadly. From the crunching jaws of a crocodile to the bone-splitting jaws of a hyena, and now the tummy-moving serpent that destroyed God's bond with man. A part of me wanted to laugh. One or even two predators weren't enough. My heart thudded against my ribs. I had tied too many knots. Untying them would take time, and I had none. But perhaps, I thought, with a touch of cruel optimism, the snake would cross the hyena's path first. And that's exactly what happened. The snake moved silently, unaware or perhaps unconcerned about the predator ahead. The hyena stood between us, still as a stone. He didn't hear it. But something shifted. Some ancestral alarm in his blood. His body tensed. Then he leapt, just as the snake neared him. If I had his senses, I wouldn't be here, I thought bitterly. I'd have refused the rope, refused the river crossing, refused the combi from Bulawayo. The cubs scattered in all directions, wild and instinctual. The father confronted the snake, who raised its head and flattened it like a hooded priest about to strike. Later, Ice would tell me it was a black mamba, one of the fastest and deadliest snakes in the world. But at that moment, all I knew was that I was watching something ancient unfold. Predator versus predator. The hyena lunged. The mamba twisted away, somersaulting across the grass. Its speed was unnerving. The hyena leapt again, 2 feet, 1 foot, no feet, as if the ground had turned to fire. His movements weren't like our earlier face-off. They were frantic, frenzied and beautiful. It was a dance of chaos. Back legs, weak-looking but spring-loaded, kept him alive. Every time the mamba struck, he dodged, just barely. But he was learning. Then came the trick, a feint. The hyena reared up, threw a false jab, and when the snake lunged, its head slid straight into his mouth. He bit down. Hard. The mamba writhed, its toxic fury reduced to twitching meat. The hyena chewed calmly. The battle was over. He shared the snack with his cubs, and the real meal, me, was still trussed to a tree. I hadn't even managed to undo some knots. I was right back where I'd started. So I tied one final layer, this time using a branch at shoulder level to fix my left arm. I built a 3/4 crucifixion, a grotesque imitation of Christ, but with one arm dangling, unused. Not by choice, but by necessity. I thought of tying the right arm too, but I couldn't. I didn't have enough limbs. For the first time in my life, I wished I had more than 2 arms. The third to tie my second arm to the branch of the tree and look like Jesus at the cross. Instead, I left the right arm free, letting it stretch outward. Maybe the hyena would think I was still alert, still capable. Maybe it would be enough to keep him at bay. I told myself to stay awake, to stay standing. But if I didn't, if I failed, if sleep claimed me and the hyena did too, at least I'd never know.
Every betrayal leaves an echo. Chapter 19 is coming next. Get your copy of Echoes of Betrayal on Amazon and Gumroad. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chapter.